defined luxury? You know, it's been a 20-year process.
Right.
I imagine it's changed.
Yeah.
Where was it 20 years ago? Where is it today?
I think the mission was always the same 20 years ago, but it's just evolved as we've defined our mission further. So we had this sort of concept of slow life, and really I believe quite strongly that business success comes when you can successfully marry opposites. And at Soneva we've managed to give our guests luxuries whilst minimizing our impact on the planet and enhancing their health. So really, luxury, sustainability and wellness go hand in hand. It's good to be creative, but one's creativity needs a guiding principle. So it's a bit like a bullet train. A lot of energy, but without the railway tracks, it goes nowhere. And so our guiding principle, our sort of railway track, and the structure to our innovation is this concept of intelligent luxury, where we question and challenge what is really a luxury for the 21st century traveller. Because, you know, what we've noticed over the last 40 years is you've had a huge demographic shift, where the rich have gone from being rural, having inherited their wealth, you know, fresh air, fresh food, living in the countryside, a lot of space and privacy, to being urban. You know, we're getting to a stage where by 2030 it's expected that 70% of the world's population will be urban. So people in an urban setting, whether it's London, Paris, New York, who are wealthy, are exposed to the same things. They're exposed to pollution. The food they eat is processed. You know, even if it's a fresh salad, it's taken a good week or two to get from that farm to their plate. You know, that house box or car box or office box or restaurant box is quite similar whether you're in London or Paris or New York or Shanghai. And it's usually German-owned, whether it's a British name or not. In terms of the car, you have the same sort of restaurateurs in terms of restaurant brands, designers, branded chefs. And the foods are quite similar as well. So that becomes expensive. It becomes a nice experience, but it's not a luxury, because the definition of luxury is something that's rare, something that's new but true, that rings a chord in your heart. So in a way, it's a rare experience. And so Soneva's always been about creating unique, rare experiences for the urban rich, whether it's just as simple as walking barefoot.
What are their expectations? This upmarket 1%. What are their expectations you fulfill? Because I don't suppose the fact that, and we'll get into that later, of how sustainable and you are, is the draw.
Right. Well, in fact, at the luxury level, we underplay sustainability because there is a growing emerging rich. You have the more established market, who I think like the sustainability angle, but there is an emerging new rich who don't want to make compromises on their holiday. They feel that they've earned their money. So, you know, as I touched upon earlier, because of the demographic shifts, the rich have gone from having inherited their wealth 50 years ago to being self-made. So if you look at the Sunday Times rich list, 95% on the list today would be people who've made their money. So they feel they've made their money, they deserve the best, and they have this perception that if it's sustainable, it's not luxurious. And Soneva is all about proving them wrong. In terms of what they demand experiences. If you're living in an urban environment, it's quite interesting to note that just recently, last year, in most European countries and Western countries, the percentage of luxury spending tipped from being on goods, historically, a majority of purchases and spending being on goods, to experiences. So there are some countries where 60% of luxury spending is now on experiences. So the rich living in these cities, they have garages which are full, cupboards which are full, are now spending their wealth more and more on experiences. And they want rare experiences, because that's really what luxury is all about. And and we're continuously pushing the boundaries of these unique experiences. So as an idea, you know, a few years ago we introduced astronomers and observatories in our resort. So we have the largest telescope in the Indian Ocean here. We have a new one coming in Soneva Jani, and of course Soneva Kiri has had one for many years. We then have expert astronomers like Buzz Aldrin, the second man on the moon, or Massimo Torenghi, who runs the largest telescope in the world at the Atacama Desert. They come as visiting astronomers, explaining things to our guests. So they want more and more unique experiences all the time. You know, being at one with nature. At Soneva Kiri, that tree pod dining has been very, very popular, where our guests board at the bottom of the tree, and like a cable car, the dining pod goes right into the middle of the trees, and then you have the waiters zip lining up and down. That becomes a huge success. At Soneva Fushi, we just opened a restaurant that's terribly successful. It's on an uninhabited island in the UNESCO Biosphere, and we use it for picnics during the day, where guests can rent it for a private picnic. But twice a week, we give the restaurant to Chef Soba, and Soba cooks a traditional meal. There's just a simple hut, and he serves. You have no choice. It's nice not having to make a choice, because again, the wealthy are continuously making decisions. It's quite nice not having to decide. And he just serves whatever the fishermen have brought in that morning, and whatever he's managed to find from the vegetable garden. And that becomes a unique experience, a really authentic, unique Maldivian experience in a unique setting. And our guests just love that.
Well, you and your partner, Eva, selected Maldives. You explained to me last night, 25 years ago, built Soneva Fushi 20 years ago, and now you're adding Soneva Johnny, Joni, Jni, and Soneva Aqua.
Yes, exactly.
So why Maldives? Why this growth in Maldives while there are so many other destinations?
Right. We love the destination. We live here. We know how it operates, and it is a beautiful destination. You have that Indian Ocean beauty. It's very close to our major markets, so it's a great spot for us. And we think that more concepts we can develop that will not cannibalize on our existing assets here.
10, 15 years back, mass tourism, well, in some ways, Maldives, mass tourism was a big part of it. Not that there still isn't part of it, but I've asked a few people, or told a few people I was coming to Maldives, and their reaction was, wow, that's the place in the world for, luxurious resorts.
Right.
So the branding behind Maldives has changed to that.
Completely, yes, yeah.
And I suppose you had a great deal to do with that, because your property is like the first that...
Yeah, well, Soneva Fushi back 21 years ago was the first luxury resort to open in the country, yeah. And so we introduced luxury tourism. I remember at the time it took us about 5 years to build it. We had the idea back in the late 80s, early 90s, and we secured this island back in 1990. And the reason it took 5 years to build was everyone thought the Maldives was a mass market destination. Up to then, you had one island which belonged to not just one nation, but one tour operator. So you had a Neckermann Island or a TUI Island, etc. And all the clients came not just from one nation, but one tour operator, and very much on charter flights, people thought we were mad, and that's why it was quite difficult to get all the capital together. But when we opened, it was obvious. It's a beautiful destination. People used to talk about the Maldives being a 5-star destination with 3-star service, and Mauritius being the opposite, a 3-star destination with 5-star service. So by adding 5-star service to that 5-star destination, it became a winning formula. And over the years, more and more resorts have opened, so that everyone knows now about the Maldives as a luxury destination, because every 2 years there's some other luxury resort opening, whether it's the one and only, the Cheval Blanc, and more recently Soneva Johnny, which opens in a couple of weeks.
I'm glad to hear that you are going to spend some effort in developing the U.S. market, because with the air service today, you get on a plane in any number of major U.S. cities, a one-stop connection, business first class. Does it really matter whether you fly 9 hours to Europe or 15 hours to Dubai for the connection?
It's slightly less. I think it's about 12, isn't it? From New York's about 12, isn't it?
New York's about 12,
Washington, 12.
And then, of course, I'm from Los Angeles.
Oh, okay, so that's a little bit further.
A little further, but it really still doesn't matter in this paradise. It really, really is. You have a property in Thailand near the Cambodian border. And what are the future plans in the next few years that you can talk about?
Well, we'd like to do a bit more in the Maldives, so we're opening Soneva Johnny. There are 2 more concepts we want to develop. that will not cannibalize on either Soneva Fushi or Soneva Jani's business. So Soneva Fushi is the resort with residences where we've been very successfully selling houses in our resorts. So Soneva Fushi is the resort with residences in a beach context. And Soneva Jani is all about the lagoon. It's a huge lagoon with 6 islands in it, and we're very privileged to be able to care for it. I carefully say care, because we do feel ourselves as guardians rather than owners of the properties which we operate. There's that, 2 more concepts in the Maldives, and then eventually we'd like to look outside the Maldives, and most probably another 3-4 years before we get to that. And there are 4 or 5 destinations that we've earmarked. And you'll obviously hear more, in the future, close to the time of opening.
Somehow, you and Eva, from the very beginning, well, actually before you built this property, the environment, sustainability was in your hearts. I think it was part of Eva's and Sweden's DNA and their citizens. It's totally incredible what you've proven. A lot through trial and error, I believe, of how you can be sustainable from the building products to these villas, to the food, to every little thing that any human being can touch, and make it sustainable, so it does not harm the earth. And you're very passionate about it. I mean, down to the wood you use. You know exactly, and you've experimented, right? Bamboo worked here, but didn't there. And so what happens after a visitor comes here, experiences a luxury and service and all the other fine things, and they learn, for those who learn a little bit about what sustainability is all about?
Yeah, I think a lot of our guests are impressed. As I said earlier, we play down the sustainability angle because there is a risk that in some markets they will think that if it's sustainable they have to make sacrifices, and Soneva is all about creating incredible experiences where people aren't making sacrifices, and quite often the more sustainable option or the more luxurious option in the way we present it, because of this factor that our guests are urban, so the rare but touching experience for them will actually end up being the more sustainable experience. I think they're impressed. Once they're on the island, they see the touch points, and it sometimes inspires them to do things back at home, invest in enterprises, etc., etc. So I do feel that sort of on a soft way, we've had some influence on our guests, just because they've seen a new way that's also true, and I think that's been appealing to them and given them inspiration and ideas.
And you made sustainability profitable and carbon neutral.
Exactly.
The whole.
Yes. So it's been a tough journey. There's been a lot of learning, a lot of progress. There's still a lot more we can do. We still have a long list of further things and projects we're working on, but it's exciting. And I think in life one either goes forwards or backwards. One never stays still. So all our team members have their goals. We believe very much in this concept of a 20-mile march, where every year we're just progressing a little bit, rather than rushing ahead one year and then stopping the next. So, all our team, they work on their 20-mile march. The sustainability team, you've met quite a few of them. They have their projects for next year, and they're thinking about the projects for the year after and the year after that.
Right. No, I don't think there are many resorts who are priced to be able to include sustainability officers, marine biologists.
Right, yeah.
And what else do you have?
We have quite a few odd job descriptions. We have an astronomer, which is a rare job description in a hotel. We have a botanist. There are always environmentalists, of course. We have our mushroom man, mycologist, I think they're called, in terms of Gordon Jackson, who also runs the Eco Centro. So yeah, there are a few people who are dedicated to sustainability, which we're very lucky to be able to sort of justify.
Thank you, Sonu.
Thank you. Thanks, Charles.